This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is your Happy New Year's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. On today's show, WWE kicks off its holiday tour live. We're going to discuss some of the awesomeness that took place with those shows. This WWE female, she re-ups with the company, and this megastar re-signs with WWE, but it was kept quiet. Wonder why. This AEW star is set to leave the company soon, and this WWE Hall of Famer calls Vince McMahon a POS. We're going to get into all of that. This is your AEW World's End pay-per-view prediction show. Doing it with me, as always, the one, the only, the leader of the pack, the leader of our Calling the Cards segment. He is the one, the only, the Doc, John Macaroon. Welcome to the stage, sir. How was your Christmas?
Yes, it was spectacular. Love it. Lots of good shit going on in the world of wrestling. AEW finally beat WWE in the ratings. Well, the caveat is WWE took a week off, which was great for them. It's really interesting that Triple H lived up to his word. Last week, no shows at all. This week, though, they kicked it right back out. After a clip show Monday, Tuesday, right back at it. And I was telling my wife, I was like, damn, they're on the road Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They're like, we got to make up the shit that we lost. WWE is a train that never rolls. Could you imagine you're a superstar and you got to get out on the road on Tuesday after Christmas? My God.
I know that for me, Tuesday after Christmas, I was kind of rolling over in bed, and I was upset that I had to go to work, and I felt like I had a Christmas ham in my stomach. So I couldn't imagine going and wrestling and tearing down the house. They tore it down all over the place. They were here in Detroit. So really, we're going to get into it. Fantastic shows with WWE in their live holiday tour. And look, they're running multiple shows on the same day. So absolutely a crazy event. And like you said, Triple H, true to his word. You don't got to basically work the week of Christmas, but afterwards, we are going to double you up and we are going to hit you hard. We'll be getting to that later on in the show. Let's get into this pay-per-view that we've got coming up on Saturday night. This is AEW's World's End pay-per-view. Look, I find this to be an interesting show, all right? I'm not super excited about it. I think what they did on Dynamite to send you home left you with a bit of a cliffhanger, and I think we're going to get some answers on this show, so it'll make this show worth watching. But this, to me, seems like it's been a shoehorned in pay-per-view. Doesn't necessarily fit on the calendar anywhere. Thankfully, they're doing it on a Saturday and not a Sunday, and thankfully they're doing it the day before New Year's Eve and not on New Year's Eve. But as far as the excitement level for this pay-per-view goes, where are you at? Are you pumped up for it? Or are you just kind of like me where it's like, well, it's a thing and we're here, we're going to watch it. It does feel like it is kind of crammed in on the calendar, trying to get it in one more before the end of the year.
Yeah, look, you get the finals of the Continental Classic. I think you get a great AEW World Championship match. You might be getting the changing of the guard at the top of AEW. I think the 20-man battle royal for the future opportunity for the TNT Championship match is going to be interesting. But for me, it's been kind of, we've been clamoring for new stars to be created. I'm definitely curious as to what they're going to do with Swerve Strickland. I think he's been the most kind of kept under the radar. Now he's kind of emerged as a big deal, and he just draws your attention. I think he has the it factor in regards to what you want to see, the presentation, can deliver in the ring, feels like he's getting the rub, and I think he's over. He's starting the opportunity now to see what it's like to be at the top and things like that. I know it's a match against Keith Lee, but I do think that there's something there. There's intrigue. Obviously, the women's matches I'm not as intrigued by, but I definitely want to see Toni Storm do her thing. I want to see FTW, and I just want to see, I guess the way to put it is I'm not super intrigued by the outcomes. I'm curious of the matches. I'm definitely curious to see Toni Storm versus Rio. Want to see how Hook looks against Wheeler Yuta. So I'm intrigued. What about you?
Same. I'm interested in some of the matches that we have. Overall, to me, it just seems like it's a bad placement for a pay-per-view. I think it's going to be a good show because we've got a lot of really interesting matches. We've got a lot of really interesting angles in different ways we can go. And like I said, I feel like we're going to get to a bit of a big reveal with this show. Can't guarantee it, but I feel like that's the case. You brought up something, and I want to touch on this, and this will kind of get us into our predictions. You brought up Swerve Strickland. I don't think there's been anybody hotter in AEW than this guy. This guy has almost been set on simmer, and he was percolating. And over the course of the last couple of months, he has catapulted to the top, and he has been one of the most interesting guys. And then getting into this Continental Classic, which, look, I know I've bagged on it. We've gotten really good wrestling out of this tournament. It's been great wrestling. Storylines aren't necessarily there, but we've got some really good wrestling out of it, and it's really helped carried the programming for Dynamite, for Collision, for Rampage. It's really helped carry those shows. So I think that's a good thing, right? This match versus Keith Lee, I'm not necessarily intrigued by it. I'm not necessarily excited for it, but Swerve Strickland, I think, did a fantastic job using this tournament to really help elevate himself even more. The match with Hangman Page really helped skyrocket him. And then this tournament helped get him even higher up until the final match where he ends up losing to Jon Moxley. Do you feel like the tournament might have cooled him out just a little bit? This is a guy who, like I said, was set on simmer and then all of a sudden get cranked up to boiling, and he makes his way through the tournament only to end up losing to Jon Moxley, not once, but twice. And yeah, he didn't get pinned in that final match, but this is a guy who I really feel like you might be missing an opportunity with to really cash in while he's incredibly hot. Yeah, he's got a match against Keith Lee. And yeah, this kind of wraps everything back around to kind of where they were when the year started. I get all that. But going into this, I don't feel like the storyline has been fantastic. I feel like you got a guy who's been white hot and you should really capitalize on him. So I think by doing what you've done the last couple of matches with him, might be taking some of the shine off of Swerve. Do you feel the same way, or do you think this is still prime opportunity? This is a great way to really capitalize on Swerve and maybe even help get Keith Lee a little bit more over?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you can make the case that Swerve should have won the Continental Classic, but here's the thing: when you're over, you could even take losses, and your star shines brighter. I think the moment when he stood face to face with MJF and told him, look, if you're going to keep accusing me, I will make your life a living hell. He was believable, and it felt like a big deal. And I think that that's the beauty of having great wrestlers like MJF is that they can elevate those that they're talking to. So, look, all you got to do in the ring, go out there and perform, be yourself. And, oh, my goodness, Swerve is innovative, and he's got the factor where you just want to see what the hell he's going to do in the ring. So it's going to be probably his year in 24. And unfortunately, look, you just can't give everybody all the shine all the time. And the main event of the Continental Classic is interesting in regards with the story they're telling with Eddie Kingston. And so sometimes someone else has to have their story kind of come full circle. And it's not yet the moment for Swerve, but it's coming real fast. Get ready. It's the year of Swerve Strickland in AEW.
Well, let's start there then. So Swerve versus Keith Lee. How do you think this match plays out?
I see Swerve winning it. I see a great match, both back and forth. It would make a little sense to have Swerve lose this match.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. We talked about a guy who's been white hot before the Continental Classic. Continental Classic helped elevate him a little bit more, comes out of it and challenges Keith Lee. I think this is the year of Swerve 2024. Will be that. So I got Swerve Strickland winning this match. All right, let's go to the pre-shows. We've got Hook, who is the FTW champion. He is taking on Wheeler Yuta. This is for the FTW title. Who do you think wins this match, Hook or Wheeler Yuta?
I don't think you change titles. I think Wheeler, it'll be a situation in which you see the greatness. I think Hook, too, another guy that's kind of been, in the mix, obviously the FTW champion. I want to see the opportunity that he's going to bring in the upcoming year. So I see Hook winning it, hands down.
Yeah, I think Hook wins this as well. I'll side with you. We've got the 20-man Battle Royal for a future AEW TNT Championship match, which can be cashed in at any time. This is almost Money in the Bank-esque. This will be part of the pre-show. I'll be honest with you. I did some looking around. I did some hunting. I could not find a list of the 20-man participants. So in this case, throw a name out there that you'd like to see in the competition and win it. And if you get it right, you get the bonus point. I'm going to start, and I think I will go with, I'll go with Powerhouse Hobbs. Why? Well, Powerhouse Hobbs is in the match later on. I'll go with Nick Waynes. Well, we'll throw Nick Waynes in here.
What do you think about Nick Waynes and his run so far? It's been interesting. Obviously he's kind of a little bit come in with a little cachet, but I think they need to kind of tell his story a little bit better, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Look, I think Christian is giving you some of the best work that he's ever given you, right? Christian's been fantastic, and I think him being paired with Christian helps elevate him a little bit. As far as where he goes, so his star can shine the brightest, at some point he's going to have to get out of the shadow of Christian, and I think him winning this match would really help set him up for that, because then he can challenge Christian Cage for the AEW TNT Championship if Christian retains over Adam Copeland. If Adam Copeland wins, Nick Waynes could be the guy who's always lurking in the shadow, ready to cash that ticket in and take it away from Adam Copeland and bring it back to Christian Cage. So I think there's some interesting stuff you could do with Nick Waynes regarding the AEW TNT Championship, and I think this is a good way to really help elevate him and boost him, and like you said, help his star shine a little bit brighter.
Is there a word how many people are actually in this thing? Is it 20 man?
So, yeah, 20 guys. I don't know who's actually competing. It is. I'm assuming it'll be guys like Nick Wayne, maybe Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
I'm assuming a guy like Wardlow will probably be in this. I think this will be one of those things where it'll be utilized for the guys who aren't necessarily in a match on the card to get a little bit of run time. You might end up getting FTR involved in this. You might be getting some of the Mexican luchadors in this. I would assume that you would probably get a guy like Dralistico in it. You'd probably get Commander in it. I'm assuming it'll give these guys a little bit of time to shine before the show actually kicks off.
Okay. I got to go with my guy. I think another guy that needs to shine. Hopefully he's in it. I got to go with Wardlow. Anytime that he's in something important, you got to put him in. I think he's a big man. I think he's been underutilized. Like the man should be really in the mid card and highlighted all the time. His power, obviously his power bombs. I think that this is an individual that definitely is a star in the making if you package him the right way. And you can't in wrestling. It's always hard because there are so many, and AEW's at that point now where they have a bloated roster. But you can't let guys fall by the wayside, and so you got to keep Wardlow in the mix with some big wins. So he's going to take it down.
Yeah, and look, Wardlow was probably my number 2 going into this, not knowing anybody who's involved in it, right? Not being able to find any names of any of the guys who are competing in it. Wardlow was my original number 1 guy. I ended up going with my number 2 guy, who was Nick Waynes, for this match, as I was just fishing around in my brain for a storyline that could work with the TNT Championship. That's why I went Nick Waynes. But I think Wardlow's a solid pick. And again, if you get it right, you get a bonus point. So you could really tip the scales and basically shut me out from winning our yearly battle of calling the card. If you were able to pick up this win with Wardlow as well as get the overall win for this pay-per-view, I don't think I'd be able to mount a comeback and close the gap on you. Our next match, Miro versus Andrade El Idolo. This will have CJ Perry involved. I think Miro wins this match. And the reason I think Miro wins this match is Andrade's contract is coming up. I believe it is going to be sometime in the middle of 2024. Andrade, it seems like, wants to go back to WWE. Sounds like he might be possibly holding out for a bigger offer from AEW. I don't know if AEW feels like they want to offer him that. You got to remember, there's probably some soured feelings here when Andrade came to AEW very early on. Once Triple H took over in WWE, he asked to be released. They said no. Andrade caused a couple of stinks and basically tried to get himself fired by picking fights with Sammy Guevara. Ends up going out on medical with a torn pec. It's been a bit of a bumpy road for Andrade, and I don't know if Andrade will be staying or hanging around in AEW. Similarly, Miro is also the bastard child of WWE who's come over to AEW and has a bit of a cantankerous relationship with Creative as well as with Tony Khan. In this case, though, I'm going to go with Miro. CJ Perry is there. Again, she's going to be a factor. I think that plays into the storyline. So I'm going to go with Miro in this match.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see now in 24 which wrestlers decided that, AEW maybe is not greener on the other side. So we'll see how that looks. But I agree. I think Miro's going to take care of business. He needs to kind of have a run here, too. Another guy that I think has kind of gone to AEW, done his thing, but hasn't had any impact. And beating Andrade will definitely start that process.
Next, we'll have Chris Jericho, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara. Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara are friends again. You got to see some of that on Dynamite this week when Sammy Guevara confronted Don Callis and the Don Callis family. Chris Jericho was the guy who came out to save him. Sting will also be involved in this match. They'll be taking on Takeshita, Powerhouse Hobbs, Big Bill, and Ricky Starks. This was a way to get Chris Jericho and what was supposed to be Kenny Omega in a match with Big Bill and Ricky Starks. It was a way to tie this back together. This was a very long, drawn-out process, but it works for storytelling purposes, I guess, especially with Kenny Omega going down with his diverticulitis. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of all plays out as we have an 8-man tag. Again, a lot of people, a lot of stories that we had to tell. All that being said, I'm going to pick the faces to win this. I'm going to go Jericho, Darby Allin, Sting, and Sammy Guevara.
Ooh, see, this is tough. You know, it's a throw-in. It's a situation in which you got to figure. It has the feel like the faces could definitely take a loss. It wouldn't hurt them all that much. You know, you see Ricky Starks, Big Bill, Powerhouse Hobbs. I think they need to win more, but you're absolutely right. I think that when you have Sting on his... If Sting wasn't involved... It probably leans toward the heels. But with Sting, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin, it just seems like this is a great opportunity to have the faces get over here. So it'll be interesting. It probably a situation in which, you know, these guys win and then Starks and Big Bill do something, you know, or they get themselves DQ'd and the faces win because of the fact that, you know, they're going to be so mad. And it'll be a classic wrestling. Heels do heel things, but the faces end up overcoming. With probably, if you want to make it the right way, you have Fletcher get pinned by Sammy Guevara.
We'll see what happens. Next match, we've got Julia Hart taking on Abaddon. This will be for the AEW TBS Championship. Look, this has been this half year, this last at least 3 months or so, quarter of a year. Julia Hart has been doing some of her best work. She has come a long way in 2023 from basically being a background player to now being a world champion and holding a belt and making it believable and looking the part and putting on really, really good matches in the ring. I think Abaddon's an interesting character, but I think Julia Hart continues her streak of winning and continues her streak of holding on to the AEW TBS Championship. I think Julia Hart beats Abaddon. Don't be surprised if Sky Blue plays a bit of a part in this match as well. I could also see Chris Statlander getting involved. I could see Willow getting involved as well. We'll see kind of what happens and how messy they make this match. Either way, I think Julia Hart comes out the champion in this match.
No doubt about it. I think that'll be a good match. Julia Hart doing her thing, and she retains. I think hopefully the women are given an opportunity on this show. They got to make the most of it.
Next, we'll have Timeless Toni Storm defending her championship against Rio for the AEW Women's World Championship. Look, Rio is interesting. Rio is fun. Rio was your very first ever AEW Women's World Champion. I think she's a 2-time Women's World Champ going for that three-peat, similar to Toni Storm, who was a 3-time champion, if math serves me correct. I think Toni Storm has a good character here. I think she has an interesting character. I think they are setting up this whole Mickie James, Trish Stratus angle with Mariah May, and I think that'll be coming down the line in 2024. So I'm going to go with Toni Storm retaining her belt. Don't be surprised if Mariah May gets involved and cost Rio this match, but I will go with Toni Storm in this one.
Absolutely. The work that she's done to kind of have this character that she's put out there really has had probably the best 90 days of anybody in the company, and you just want to see what she's all about. And I think that she's somebody on the women's side that if you invest in and give good stories to and good matches to and opportunities, you're going to start to see that Toni Storm is going to rise to the top, and she needs to have a nice long run.
All right, our next match will be for the champion. This will be the finals of the AEW Continental Classic for the AEW inaugural Triple Crown Championship. This is an interesting match because, again, we talked about the Continental Classic not having a lot of storyline in it, right? Not really telling a ton of stories. But what has happened is the ending has given us multiple stories. We've already talked about Swerve and Keith Lee and how we've come back around to that match. This match, Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, this will be, I believe, their third match that they've had. These guys have a sordid history. I thought Jon Moxley addressing Eddie Kingston after he beat Bryan Danielson was awesome. I thought Eddie's response to him was so classic, basically telling him, "You're lucky I let you breathe. You were my underling." I thought it was really, really great. It's interesting, these two guys, where they are in their career, where they've come from, and how sordid and how intertwined their careers are. All of that being said, Eddie ends up beating Bryan Danielson to advance to the finals. Do you think we missed an opportunity? We missed a chance for a Moxley versus Bryan Danielson, and for these two guys to have, again, styles make matches, and these two guys have very contrasting styles, where Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston have very similar styles. Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson being the technical technician, and Jon Moxley being just a savage brawler. Do you think we missed an opportunity to have a better match with those two guys fighting? Whereas you've seen with Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson on Dynamite, these guys had a great match, had a fantastic match, incredibly hard hitting. And again, those styles make matches. They just differ so much. It was such a violent match. It was a lot of fun to watch those two guys mix it up. Could it have been better if it's going to be Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson? Also, they're both part of the BCC. You could work that storyline in. Would it have been better with those two guys? Or are you excited to see Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston? I believe this is number 3 for these guys.
Yeah, because look, we understand the stories of Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson. It's time for some new meat and some new opportunities. And I think the guy that they've been telling the story really excellently has been Eddie Kingston. I thought that the story that they told on Dynamite was obviously one of redemption, where Moxley's talking to him about potentially, the journey that he's been on and almost quitting and the respect and all that, and still doing this stuff to get people intrigued by the match. I just think that Eddie Kingston, the story that they're telling of a guy that, needs his opportunity and needs the redemption and all that kind of stuff, it's intriguing. It gets you behind him a little bit more because that crowd was hot. They were into the match, and I just thought that, giving Bryan Danielson, allowing, the opportunity for Eddie Kingston to get over there is crazy. But I think that, in my opinion, you got to give it to Eddie Kingston. I think that that's kind of the feel of the King of the Ring, is somebody new. Jon Moxley already is established. He's a big deal. He can go on and do whatever he needs to be doing. But I think for really the theme of the show and the theme of the card is you got to kick off 24 with people being hot. And somebody that's over in a violent, kind of believable way is Eddie Kingston. So he's got to win this in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is Eddie Kingston. Remember, all of these belts, all but the new one, were Eddie Kingston's belts. Eddie Kingston was I believe it's the light heavyweight champion in New Japan. He is also the Ring of Honor. I don't think it was the television champion, or he was one of the light heavyweight champion of Ring of Honor. So the two of the 3 belts involved with this were already Eddie Kingston's. He had to put them up. So for him to lose this at the very, very end would be, to me, sour grapes. And like you said, I feel like there is more to do with Eddie Kingston than to do with Jon Moxley. You've already done a ton with Jon Moxley. This tournament doesn't necessarily do anything for Jon Moxley. And we've talked about what this tournament would mean for a guy like Swerve Strickland. For Jon Moxley to make it all the way to the finals and to basically beat out a guy like Swerve and kind of almost put some of the brakes on a guy that was a runaway train, the only reason to do that would be to help elevate a guy like Eddie Kingston. It would be to put a guy like Eddie Kingston over. Because what you can do is you've now helped build multiple guys, right? Swerve Strickland has been great, and making him wait a little bit longer makes him a little bit more interesting. Having Jon Moxley beat a guy like Jay White. Jay White is already hot, incredibly interesting, needs to get pushed a little bit more. His time will be coming in 2024. For Eddie Kingston to beat a guy like Jon Moxley, helps put him over and send him to the moon. I think it has to be Eddie Kingston. It only makes sense if it's Eddie Kingston who comes out the winner of this match. And look, I think we are in for a meat match. And when I say meat, I mean these dudes are going to clobber each other, and their chests are going to look like ground beef when it's all said and done. It should be a lot of fun. Should be a really interesting match. Next, we've got Christian Cage defending his AEW TNT Championship in a no disqualifications match against Adam Copeland. Remember, Christian Cage cheated last time to beat Copeland with it being a no disqualifications match. You could have Nick Waynes, you could have Luchasaurus, you could have Mama Waynes get involved. You could have, I don't know, just about anybody get involved. You could possibly have former Brood member Gangrel get involved if he's around. I don't know if they'll do that. I always thought that would be interesting to intertwine him into this match because, remember, they came up with him in WWE. And at this moment in time, I think Gangrel wrestles out of Sam's Club in Las Vegas doing weird house shows. So you could always bring him in on a whatever. So it'll be an interesting match. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm expecting a couple of concertos here. Who do you have winning this match, and how do you see this match playing out besides being violent and ugly and having tables and ladders and chair spots?
Yeah, everyone wants to see it. Obviously, round one went to Christian. This round, you can't bring in a star and then have him lose. So it's going to go to Edge and the new champ. And I think it'll look good on him. I think the crowd will be very excited. And you kick off 24 with Christian trying to get it back and doing all the dirty deeds as a heel. And Edge definitely deserves a pop to end the year.
Yeah, look, I've kind of gone back and forth on this, right? It's one of those things where they gave us the free match in Montreal, and that was good. But this one should be so much better. And I think you can tell a story where Adam Copeland learns from the mistake, right? Learns from what took place with Christian last time and is able to capitalize on that. Maybe he has somebody who's watching his back to help him get involved and kind of even the tide a little bit. I'm going to go Adam Copeland as well. It's really weird. Me and you have been basically in lockstep for this card. Everything but the 20-man battle royal where we're just throwing darts at a board here. So it could all come down to this match to really decide who's going to take the point when it's all said and done. And Dynamite gave us a lot to talk about on Wednesday with the main event, which was incredibly quick. I was surprised at how fast that main event was. I think it was maybe 5 minutes. I thought the wrestling on Dynamite was very, very good. Overall, I thought it was a bit of a house show, though. But the wrestling that you got was on the verge of being pay-per-view quality. This match, I didn't necessarily understand it. I get long-term, tells a story, and it's part of a story. I think you could have possibly have done this better with the way everything shook out. We will have MJF defending his title against Samoa Joe for the AEW World Championship match. I want to get your take on what took place with Dynamite's ending. In this match, you had it open with Samoa Joe's music. Samoa Joe could not come out to the ring. He was feigning that he was attacked in the back and he was suffering from a knee injury. So MJF goes to the ring and gets into the match with the two masked men who are working for the devil. In the end, there's a guy hiding underneath the ring who has a metal pipe, hits MJF in a heavily taped shoulder, rolls MJF over. The second or the first one of the guys from the Putty Patrol, get him back into the ring, hits a devastating, I don't even know what the move is called. It was pretty great, though. It was kind of like a pile driver, modified pile driver, and rolls him over for the 1-2-3. Samoa Joe ends up coming down to the ring, again, limping, feigning the knee injury, rolls into the ring with a chair, basically chases out the Putty Patrol. They take their belts and they leave. Up on the screen, as MJF rolls over and looks to the screen, Samoa Joe's behind him, and it's basically a picture of the devil. Then it says, "A pleasure doing business with you," only for Samoa Joe's head to kind of turn to the side, raise the chair, and then smash MJF from behind and basically tell him he's been set up the entire time and he did this to him. He's been working with the devil the entire time. It kind of leads everybody down a path because the internet was going crazy with speculation, and we'll get to that speculation in a moment. But what did you think about the finish? Because I thought this could have been done a little bit better if Samoa Joe turned on MJF in the middle of the match instead of having this whole pomp and circumstance at the very, very end.
The Mask Guys are the ROH Tag Champs. What do you know? It was definitely surprising. I think it makes sense, obviously, to have Samoa Joe potentially be a ringleader. Look, the crazy part about this is how are you going to handle MJF's injury? It's obviously a significant one. I don't know how much they're selling it, but it just builds on Samoa Joe, and I think that's great. Obviously, he's been a main event character. It's trending toward that way. He's believable. I think that when you have a character like Samoa Joe, you can do so many creative things with him, and turning on MJF was great. I thought that obviously the way in which they said, I was intrigued when they obviously had the devil show up there, and then all of a sudden Samoa Joe is now under the devil's spell. Could be, definitely people are going to want to know the answers to that. Is Samoa Joe actually the leader? So there's so much good stuff that you can do with Samoa Joe. We'll see, if you and I think that they should actually give him the belt. I don't see it. That's the tough part is storyline-wise, I could see giving Samoa Joe the belt. But it doesn't when you go from MJF to Samoa Joe, it kind of feels like you're going from Roman Reigns to Grayson Waller. It's Samoa Joe's great, but he's kind of synonymous with kind of being on the second show. You know what I mean? Not being the guy. If there was an Intercontinental title, great. I know that the TNT title is kind of in that realm, but they need kind of, like we've said a lot of times earlier this year, they need an Intercontinental belt that is the clear number 2. Like a TNT championship, the FTW belt, all the ROH belts, those don't have really history.
They feel like the TV championship.
Like Edge, I think, can make the TNT championship. Christian's done a good job with it, but he's established. Edge, I think, could take it to the next level by having a bunch of great matches, dream matches. So to me, I think it's intriguing, but in the match, I just can't see it. I think that if you're going to do the reveal, I mean, it makes sense. You do the reveal and the devil costs MJF, but is it for the title? Is it just to get interfering in the match? I don't see it. I just can't see. When it happens, if I'm wrong, and probably the good chance it is I am wrong, but I just don't see it. I just see MJF needing to start the year with the belt and having to do the match not really revolving around the belt, just a false finish maybe. The devil comes out, MJF beats Samoa Joe, and then the second that happens, the devil is revealed, and it's a beatdown of epic proportions, and I just can't see MJF losing to Samoa Joe. It doesn't feel big enough.
Yeah, so I'm in the same boat as you, right? I feel the same way for the match, and I think it goes down like this. And this is what I've thought for a little bit, because I'm going to say a name, and he's been ready to come back for a little bit now, and he had a very serious injury while he was out, and just kind of the way this is trending. If there wasn't an injury earlier, this story would have been fast-tracked, but because of the injury, they were able to really build this story out, and I think it's been fun. I think it's been interesting. I think what happens is, through everything, MJF is able to overcome Samoa Joe. He's able to just beat Samoa Joe. And what happens is, after the match, you've got the masked guys come down, and you've got the devil walk to the top of the ring, or the top of the entrance ramp, and basically gives a nod, and they just continue to beat the crap out of MJF as the devil slowly walks to the ring. Devil rolls himself into the ring and unveils himself to be Adam Cole. Some of the masked men, the guys who are now the ROH champions, are Kyle O'Reilly, who's been on the shelf but is ready to come back. I would not be surprised if they brought back his tag team partner from Ring of Honor when they were the Red Dragons. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Bobby Fish. If they brought Bobby Fish back and he was part of the group, and basically you've got what was Undisputed Era in AEW, and don't be surprised if Roderick Strong would be a part of it, and you've got the other two guys from the Kingdom as a part of it, and now you've got a new faction that is led by Adam Cole, and it'll have Bobby Fish, it'll have Kyle O'Reilly, it'll have Roderick Strong, and it'll have Mike Bennett, and it'll have the other guy from the Kingdom that I can't recall off the top of my head. And I think that would be an incredibly strong group, and you could work Samoa Joe in there as well as a guy who's been a part of it. I think that would be incredibly interesting. I think it would be a really good way to tell a story. And now you've kind of set MJF up to where if you needed to, you could write him out. Again, beat him down for a while, let him get some rehab and let him come back a little bit stronger. And he's going to go after Adam Cole, and Adam Cole finally beats him. Remember, Adam Cole wanted the rematch. They went to a draw, 30-minute draw, and MJF said no, only for them to become best friends. And I think the weave of deceit that Adam Cole has kind of done since they've become best friends, the whole kangaroo punch, all of it, everything, I think you can pull on it and it'll tell a really good story. And this would be back to some of the stuff that we really liked with AEW when they told long, slow stories where they made things epic and built things because they were so interesting for so very long, and they get the payoff. So I think that would be the way it would go. Do you see Adam Cole being the devil?
I do. It makes sense. But if it's not, I could see Jack Perry being the devil as well. I think that's somebody that is somebody that needs to come in and handle his business and kind of tell a story of feeling the pain of losing and the devil that helped save AEW. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, I think all roads are pointing to Adam Cole right now. It'll be a big twist. It'll be a big story with the faction, so we'll see.
All right, so with that, we are pretty much in lockstep. I've got MJF, you've got MJF. We both have Adam Copeland. We both have Eddie Kingston. We both have Timeless Tony Storm. We both have Swerve Strickland. We both have Julia Hart. We both have the faces and the Chris Jericho, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, and Sting versus the Don Callis family and Big Bill and Ricky Starks. We both have Miro. You've got Wardlow. I've got Nick Waynes in the 20-man battle royal. That will be the deciding factor on this show. Possibly each one of us getting an extra bonus point. So this could be a 2-point swing for us. And then we both have Hook retaining the FTW World Championship. I trail you by 3. If you get both points, I will then trail you by 5, and I do not know how I catch up. I don't know if mathematically I will be eliminated from catching you this year. It'll be really, really interesting. As always, we kind of reset everything, and we start fresh with WrestleMania, and that will take place in April. So we will have the Royal Rumble. So it will be interesting to see how these things get done. With all that being said, you ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
All right, so WWE kicked off the holiday tour live. This past Monday Night Raw was some of the best moments of the year. However, December 26th marked the return of the WWE holiday tour. The first stop was Madison Square Gardens. The historic venue had many special moments this past Tuesday. First, it marked the in-ring return of CM Punk, who hit Dirty Dom Mysterio with a GTS for a win. Second, Cody and Shinsuke Nakamura had a Texas bull rope match. This was rumored to be the SummerSlam match against Brock Lesnar, but the stipulation was thrown out at the last minute. This is a special match for Cody, as it's the match that his father Dusty made famous. And finally, in a touching moment after Seth Rollins beat Drew McIntyre in a no-holds-barred match to retain his WWE Heavyweight Championship, he honored Brody Lee and William Rotunda. Lee passed away 3 years ago on December 26th, and Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt, unexpectedly died this past year. They ended up coming to Detroit, and if you follow Grayson Waller is a fantastic follow on Twitter, on Instagram. Go read some of his tweets. They came to Detroit, and Grayson Waller did a really good job of burying the city of Detroit. It was pretty fantastic. A couple of the local politicians ended up responding back to him, a little back and forth. It was a lot of fun. A former WWE star debuted for AEW this week. Scotty 2 Hotty made his AEW debut in a match that took place before Dynamite's New Year's Smash on December 27th, 2023. Under the name Scott Taylor, the former WWE Tag Team Champion, entered to the WWE Too Cool theme music. Interestingly enough, AEW can use some of the WWE music. According to Fightful Select, the reason why AEW has been able to use the Too Cool theme is because the theme is licensed as part of the music library that also includes the Hardy Boys theme and the Hardcore and Crash Holly theme songs. In his debut, Taylor teamed with the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, defeating the team of the Guns, Matt Menard, and Jake Hager. This WWE female star has re-upped with the company. PW Insider is reporting that Zelina Vega has come to terms with WWE, sealing a new multi-year deal with the company. The exact length of her deal was not disclosed. Multiple WWE sources reportedly confirmed that the signing took place in the aftermath of Endeavor's takeover of WWE. That'll hold true with this megastar who re-signed with WWE, and again, it was kept very quiet. While writing in the Wrestling Observer newsletter this week, Dave Meltzer stated that while it didn't go reported at the time, Cody Rhodes agreed to a term for a new multi-year deal back in October. A lot of talent that still had existing time left on their deals have been offered very long-term new deals at substantial increases in pay in the recent months, and Cody Rhodes took advantage of that. Now, this AEW star is set to leave the company very, very soon. Taking to Twitter on Friday, Sean Spears revealed that he is set to leave AEW, with him set to become a free agent on January 1st. He wrote, "What a wonderful time it has been. Thank you at AEW for allowing me to be there from the ground level. It's been a fantastic 5 years of growth and personal development. This is a personal choice and one that is best for me and my family at this time. Thank you all, staff and talent alike, for the moments. #10. And finally, this WWE Hall of Famer calls Vince McMahon a piece of shit. After returning to WWE in 2016, WCW legend Goldberg went on an unexpected career renaissance, wrestling numerous times across the following 6 years, even winning the WWE Universal Championship on 2 occasions. Despite his legacy being honored with a Hall of Fame induction during his run, he would unexpectedly depart the company without a proper send-off, with his final match coming against Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber in 2022. Speaking to Steven and Captain Evil, Goldberg revealed why he didn't get a proper retirement match while discussing his relationship with Vince McMahon, saying, "Vince is like Dana White. He is the big boss and he makes everything happen, and in all honesty, he gave me the opportunity to put my wife and son on the front row and gave me the ability to perform again in front of them. So I owe him everything. Until we went to Saudi Arabia and he asked me to put Roman Reigns over and I had COVID. I remember calling him from my house and said, 'Listen, here's the deal. I'll do it if you give me a retirement match.' I did what he asked as a performer. I was 56 years old. As a human being, you're conscientious about how you look in a bathing suit, especially 2 months prior to being in that bathing suit. You couldn't work out because you had COVID. I put myself in a horribly shitty situation to get what I wanted to, but to satiate him and give him what he wanted. Problem is, he never held up his end of the bargain. Vince is a piece of shit as far as I'm concerned." Goldberg officially departed WWE at the beginning of 2023 as his contract expired, never getting his retirement match. Recently, he has pitched himself to Tony Khan to be the opponent for Sting in his retirement match, happening later on in 2024. So it'll be interesting to see if Goldberg returns to AEW. Tony Khan is a huge fan of WCW wrestling from when we were kids. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place. But that's going to do it for this week's wrestling news and notes. And again, Happy New Year to everybody. And that's going to wrap this podcast.
Yeah, the answer should be no. No way should the final match be against Goldberg. Are you kidding me? I think what's crazy is, look, Goldberg didn't look good in the ring, and he never really was a good wrestler. I think that if you promise that, you got to be crazy to give a promise to a guy that old. You just wanted a couple pops, a couple more sales, and keep it moving. I think that Vince made the right call, but listen, I get it if you're Goldberg, but in the end, why did you want to end your career getting pinned and getting, I don't think you were going to get a match where you were going to get over. I mean, look what he let you do. How are you going to say he's a piece of shit? He let you come back and win the title, which shocked everybody, beat Brock Lesnar in 3 seconds. I mean, that in and of itself is worthy of ultimate respect, that he lets you come back and you end up becoming the champion and shocking the world by beating the biggest star at the time in the company. So, Goldberg, I think you're wrong on this one. Let's hope that we don't get to see him in the ring anymore and let him do his promotional stuff outside of the ring. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure that if you agree or disagree with anything that we've said, hit us up. Let us know. If you think the card at AEW is going to turn and look a whole lot different, if you think Samoa Joe is worthy of being the champion and moving forward, let us know. I still am shocked. I didn't even know WWE was coming to town. It was a smaller show, and you would have kind of felt left out if you know that CM Punk is wrestling the day before, and the main event is LA Knight versus Jimmy Uso, but still would have been fun, I think, for a night. But just too busy, man. Didn't even know they were in town. I looked and I'm like, all these people are, what the, see Darren McCarty there? I was like, oh my goodness. It was an okay show. It went from 7:30 till 10, but it was just obviously, a holiday tour and something for the supporters and listeners to find out. SmackDown, I think, is coming back to Detroit in April. So look for that. Tickets go on sale, I think, January 12th. So pay attention. SmackDown will return to Metro Detroit in 2024. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Happy New Year, everybody. Can't wait to come back strong next year for another strong year, another strong episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.